Alright, so this video is going to be a Bitcoin update. I want to go through some of this local price action, give my thoughts on this, and I want to check out Market Cipher, see how Market Cipher is looking across all the time frames, and see if I can come up with some plans. Last weekend, right as the Sunday candle closed, actually, I believe we got this dump right as the weekly candle closed. So, yeah, we closed the weekly candle like right about here. Yeah, as soon as that weekly candle closed, we got this massive dump to the downside. It was about 10% down. The most aggressive move to the downside that we've seen this entire uptrend, basically. I don't think we've seen another 10% dump, at least not that quickly. Maybe from this high to this low was a 10% dump. And yeah, just about. But this was a very fast move. And this move actually did something that has not happened this entire run up, starting from all the way back down at this low that we put in at $23,000. We have flipped 4-hour market structure bearishly, and that has not happened this entire time. We have been putting in higher highs and higher lows, and you can see this entire leg up. We've not broken market structure up until this point where we put in this last higher high, a higher low. We SFP'd the high, still technically continuing market structure, even though it was not a break. So it's not technically a continuation to the upside. However, it does make this a valid market structure point. And we did break that, and quite aggressively too. So the first sign of bearishness, I would say, when it comes to market structure would be this 4-hour bearish break, and you can even argue that it is a higher time frame market structure break. Maybe you want to argue it's a 12-hour or even daily break. Even though I don't love it as daily market structure, I think you can make an argument, but it would probably be 12-hour structure. It's a bit higher than 4-hour. Either way, this is the first bearish break that we've gotten on this uptrend. And in my last Bitcoin video, I marked out some resistance that I was looking for above us. I marked out this box. There was some confluence in that area with the golden pocket from all-time high down to the bear market low. We have the value area high of the bull market range and some other confluence in that area. But I'd say we are in a pretty significant area of resistance right now. Significant enough to where it could make for some sort of a swing top. Maybe not like, macro swing or like weekly swing structure, but this could definitely be the start of a retracement. This could be a topping point. And maybe we don't get that deep of a retracement. Maybe we only dump down to this point of control and kind of respect range rotation rules where, we got above the value area low, we then got above the point of control. It would make sense to rotate up to the value area high, only considering range rotation rules. So that plus, some other things make me think that, there is a decent chance we do end up pushing up higher before actually topping out and getting that massive retracement on this whole leg up that we've seen, which, I think at some point it does make sense to take out all this price action. So maybe we don't, get this move right away. Maybe it's sort of like a retrace and then put in another high and then maybe, continue an uptrend for a bit before actually topping out. So, I do think it makes sense to go a bit higher. However, I am considering the fact that this could be a top and maybe we do actually get this retracement now. Now, looking more locally, Bitcoin has gotten a pump today. Jay Powell flapped his lips and we got a nice little pump. We are making a move up towards this, previous range that we broke down out of. And so I think it makes sense to look for some key areas of resistance, because if we make our way up to those resistances and we see some bearish signs, there's a chance that that ends up being the lower high because we have technically broken market structure. So it would make sense to put in a lower high before a lower low. Doesn't mean we have to, but I think the probabilities do point that way, at least until Bitcoin proves us otherwise, which, for right now, the only way to really disprove that idea is by taking out this high. And, I think this is a very significant development here. We, broke 4-hour market structure. That is typically seen as a sign of reversal, especially when you have bearish divs to go along with it. Now, one thing to note is we actually did not see bearish divs with money flow, at least not kind of viewing it from here. If you zoom in, we actually did get some slight bear divs. However, it's a little weird because, the bear divs were only like locally. It was kind of like an internal bearish div, because if you measure where the money flow is at when we actually put in that first high, it was right here. So technically, you could say that maybe we don't have 4-hour bear divs with money flow because we actually put in a higher high in money flow compared to where it was at when we actually put in that first high. You can see money flow actually increased. However, it put in this high and then started decreasing as we actually put in that SFP. It is still technically a bear div. I'll say that it is a slight bear div with money flow. However, it's not very strong. But regardless, we went on to break market structure anyway and quite aggressively. So I'm looking at this as, a pretty solid indication of a downtrend being created. Whether it lasts a long time, whether this downtrend actually brings us down to some of my retracement targets, or maybe we just kind of, range, maybe we come down and SFP this low once more and then kind of break market structure back. And at that point, we can completely disregard the bearish break. Either one is a possibility, but for right now, I am focusing on shorts because, well, we are in bearish market structure as of right now. So now let's talk about some resistance levels. So I actually have a few pretty juicy looking resistance levels in mind. First off, if you pull a fib from that high to this low, we have the golden pocket and the 786 aligning inside this previous range. I like that because I think it makes it better when you backtest a range and then get rejected from it before continuing structure. And we have the golden pocket lining up right around the bottom of the range. We actually just front ran it. If I extend this over and try not to mess it up, we just barely front ran this golden pocket. So potentially we may put in another local higher high here, and maybe there's some sort of a local short trade from that. But I do think this 786 is looking a bit juicier. The golden pocket also aligns with the value area low. So you could say that, it would look nice if we just rejected from the value area low and then dumped. But I like this 786, one, because it aligns with the point of control, and two, because it is the end of this aggressive candle, basically. We have some inefficient price action that was caused by this massive dump. So I think it would be nice to fill that inefficiency before heading lower. And if we do fill that inefficiency, that leaves less of a reason for us to come back to the upside later, which would be good if I'm in a short. If I'm in a short from, let's say, this golden pocket and we get a little dump, but we still have this inefficiency above us, that could be a reason for us to come back up later and stop me out. But if we fill that inefficiency before I enter short, maybe that ends up being the lower high. And at that point, we may look to target this lower low and look to maybe continue market structure if we break it with a close. So these are two areas that I'm keeping my eyes on, and I will be watching for confirmations in these areas, right? I'm not setting limit orders here because what happens if this golden pocket's not respected and we just shoot straight up through here? Well, then you just took a loss for no reason. So I will not be entering any trades unless I see confirmations in these areas, but I think those are looking like some juicy points of interest. All right, now let's start going through market cipher starting on the daily time frame. And let's see how things are looking, and let's see how they play into my idea of us potentially putting in a lower high here. So, as I mentioned in my last video, the daily time frame is still looking bullish, despite this bearish break that we have, and this bearish SFP of that local high that we got. We did not see any divergences on the daily time frame, even with momentum, which is interesting because we were seeing bearish divergences with momentum pretty much this entire leg up until that last push to the upside. So it's interesting that, that last pump that we got actually brought momentum up above the original anchor wave and voided all of those divergences. This entire time I was not getting super bearish about these divergences, although I thought they could lead to a retracement. I was, paying attention to them, and that was factoring into my analysis. Definitely, I was thinking because we were getting divergences with momentum, that we could get a retracement, but I was also saying that since we were not seeing divergences with money flow this entire time, money flow continued to put in higher highs, that it probably would not be an extended retracement. I would maybe expect like a quick liquidity grab before continuing higher. Now, we never ended up getting a retracement, and we basically voided those bearish divs before getting any kind of retracement. And money flow, yet again, went on to put in another higher high on the daily. So we definitely do not have any kind of divergences, nothing that I would call a top signal on the daily. Now, do I think because the daily is still looking bullish that we can't get some sort of a local downtrend here? No, not necessarily. I could picture a few scenarios where maybe the daily remains bullish and we do end up getting a local retracement. And, that would basically be where, this VWAP that is starting to curve to the upside now, showing, the beginning signs of a potential green dot printing here, which, if that prints would give continuation, that would bring momentum back to the upside. So, the VWAP is starting to curve to the upside, but potentially we see it flop over. And maybe momentum comes down a little bit more. Maybe we do get some sort of a local retracement here. And maybe at some point in the future, we end up putting in another higher high. Because there are no top signals on the daily, maybe we still go on to put in a higher high later. And maybe at that point, we do end up seeing some top signals on the daily. Maybe money flow starts to come out. Maybe we do get that bear div with momentum and money flow as we put in another higher high. So that is, one scenario that could play into my idea of a 4-hour retracement beginning. Maybe we get that 4-hour retracement. The daily, just kind of retraces a little bit before we get that last push to the upside where we get some bear divs. Maybe that doesn't even end up being the high. Maybe we do something like this and then get some continued bear divs on the daily. So, this would be an idea that would allow for that 4-hour retracement and would also allow for us to put in yet another higher high and actually get those top signals on the daily, which I think would definitely, hint towards a larger retracement. It's not very often that you see a swing top without any kind of top signals on the higher time frames. Like it's not often that you see a swing top on the daily time frame that was not formed by bearish divergences, usually with momentum and money flow. But in this case, we don't see either. So I personally think that it's unlikely that we put in a swing top here and begin some sort of an extended retracement without putting in bear divs on the daily. However, because there is such a significant reason for us to get a retracement, such as this easy to sweep liquidity that was left below all of these higher lows, and the inefficient price action that we have over here, and my retracement targets, which would be just a retest of this range that we broke out of. I think there is significant reason for us to get a retracement, and I do think it's unlikely that this ends up being the swing top, but I do not think it's impossible just because we have, sufficient reason for us to get that retracement. And this daily higher low is outdated. I don't know why I still have that on my chart. Disregard that because, if you're not considering this a daily higher low, then I would probably consider this the daily higher low at like 36,700. But anyway, that's my analysis on the daily time frame. I think just looking at market cipher alone, it looks bullish as heck, and I don't think it calls for a swing top. But we'll have to see if it ends up being right or wrong. So now going down to the 4-hour, we are seeing the 4-hour money flow take a turn to the downside. It is starting to come out. Looks like it wants to cross into the red pretty soon here. And I think this backs up my idea of a 4-hour lower high being put in. Pretty simple. I'm just looking at the money coming out of the asset. And, I think when this happens, usually it wants to spend a little bit of time in the red before crossing back over. So I think that gives us time to start a bit of a 4-hour retracement here before potentially going higher later. And when you go down to some of the lower time frames, money flow is already in the red. Like on the 2-hour, it's been in the red for a little bit. Looks like it's starting to curve back to the upside. We can see the 1-hour actually just crossed into the green. So if we are going to put in a 4-hour lower high, what I would probably expect the money flow to do would be to possibly put in a lower high, something like this on the 4-hour. And then, if we go down to the 1-hour, maybe the money flow ends up looking something like this, like I drew out on the 4-hour. Comes up in the green for a little bit, but then crosses back down as we put in that high, possibly into this key area that I'm watching. So, I'm just kind of thinking of how that 4-hour could play into some of these lower time frames. The 1-hour is coming up right now. But if this tops out, there's a good chance that we will just be putting in a lower high in the 4-hour money flow. Now, if I'm going to be trading this, I'm probably not going to be trading it like this, like on these high time frames where, I just enter because it looks like we're going to go down eventually, put my stop loss up above the high, or, maybe get a little risky with it, put it above like this value area high. The reason I'm not going to do this is because, this isn't the way I usually trade unless it's like a super confident idea, which I think this idea makes sense, but I'm not seeing anything to make me extremely confident in it enough for me to want to take that kind of trade. What I would rather do is I would rather look for a lower time frame entry. Like let's say we end up rejecting from this golden pocket, we just tapped into the value area low, and maybe we get some sort of a market structure break. Maybe we see like a low time frame market cipher basic strat entry where let's say the 5-minute money flow starts coming out, and momentum gets a turn to the downside, comes up, prints a trigger wave as we're getting this kind of retest. I would look for some sort of an entry on a lower time frame, look for a tighter stop loss, look to lock in this trade quickly, and basically just de-risk the trade as soon as possible. That's how I trade. I like to enter, scalp or day trades, and then if they play into my swing trade ideas, then I can hold it as a swing trade, and that allows me to lock in my trades. It allows me to take profits on them earlier than my ultimate target of them. Like, in this case, if I enter that trade, I'm not going to be waiting for this low or this low or this low to be taking profits. I'm going to be taking profits a lot sooner than that and locking in my trade. And then if it goes against me, well, I can look for another scalp entry. That's the way I trade. And it does seem like we are getting a bit of a rejection from that value area low. So, let's take a look at things locally. We are seeing some divergences. Money flow, is a bit ambiguous. Is that the word that Jason Casper uses? It's not very clear. It's pretty thick in the green. It is getting a slight divergence, but that could be voided just with a simple push to the upside. We are seeing momentum divs, but it's not looking super clear at this moment. I think I would rather wait until I get a bit more clarity. Maybe we retrace a little bit, and maybe the money flow starts to come out, and then I'll feel a bit better about entering on some sort of like a trigger wave. But yeah, this isn't anything that I would look to enter right away. I think that's a bit risky, especially since at this point I would get a pretty garbage entry for, this kind of trade setup. If I was going to take it super aggressively, I would have wanted to enter like up here and lock in the trade pretty much on this wick to the downside that we get. You really don't want to be hesitating, because then you're going to end up entering like halfway down the move and you're really not going to be able to lock in the trade. And if it ends up going against you short term, I mean, you took a loss for, no reason. Okay, well, I think that's just about everything I wanted to go over in this video. So, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I really appreciate all of the support, and I will see you all in the next video.